All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you may be. And welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 175, A Man Assaulted by Thirsty Women at Con, Women Most Affected, where we'll be, well, this isn't, I guess this is technically, it's going to be a conversation about more. I talked about this a bit on Monday, or not Monday, last Friday, when we had a Twitter X space, but Alison really wanted to give her 2 cents on it, so we're revisiting, and we'll try and get a little bit deeper into it. I have here the website that covered it. I don't know if this was the first place, but I think it's the most interesting because I believe, and I might be wrong, but I believe this is a feminist website, or at least like feminist friendly, a fellow traveler, and they covered this event. So Alison, I'm going to hand it to you right now so you can do the things, and then I guess we'll get into it.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm going to be bringing the studies. That's why I wanted to also talk about this and more of the context in which this is occurring. So this is a gang sexual assault of a male performer at a dark romantacy convention called, I believe, Sinners and Stardust. That's correct, right, Brian? We'll just and this happened, and the overall problem that I am seeing is that the community is not taking responsibility for the reason why this happened, and they're continuing to promote narratives, irresponsible, self-serving, solipsistic narratives around this event, which means that this community is completely irresponsible. And I want to point out what happened 10 years ago to other convention spaces when it was alleged that women were being not even group sexually assaulted in public, but because I don't think we'd ever hear the end of that. And I think that would have probably ended several convention circuits if it had ever happened. Women being made uncomfortable by men going into elevators with them and saying, "Hey, would you like to come back to my room for a cup of coffee?" Women being made uncomfortable because a couple of guys sitting behind them had made a dongle joke, like, "I got a big dongle," and they're talking about actually USB dongles. And a woman got upset over that. And then also women getting upset over men having pinup shirts with pinups on them. And all of these infractions, which basically amounted to women feeling uncomfortable or potentially women wanting to use their sense of offense and discomfort to control the community, because what ended falling out of that is women making false accusations, women using accusations to get preferential treatment, like jumping lines, and all kinds of other stuff like that. And it wasn't even this happening. It was just women made uncomfortable. World has to rearrange itself. Well, certain women, because there had always been women at these events, but certain women wanted to use their discomfort and their feelings to rearrange the entire community so that they controlled it. They controlled access. They gatekeeped policy procedures and all kinds of other stuff. As a direct result of that, I was kicked out of a convention. And all it boils down to is I supposedly made women feel uncomfortable because I went to a panel for women into comics, which I was at the time doing a comic, and I spoke to a topic that feminists brought up. They brought up the topic of men's rights activists. They said, "Why can't we have a dialogue?" And I said, "Okay, let's have a dialogue." And then that made them feel uncomfortable, and I got kicked out of the convention for that. So I was actually a victim, if you want to use that word, of this entire landscape of the world needing to change to remove women's feelings of offense or discomfort, right? And now we have a convention that is probably female-led, female-directed, female-run for a specifically female genre of fiction, dark romantasy. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically just rape and torture, violence. It's basically women fetishizing dark triad
smut for women that involves
it's beyond
supernatural smut elements like vampires and werewolves and stuff.
But it's beyond the specific
like True Blood. you know?
No, that's not, no. The
Oh, it's
specific
like way
thing about
darker than
dark
that, but okay.
romantasy is that it is non-con, it is abusive, it is torture, it is, I've read some of it. In my defense, the writer was really good. So, but I've read it. I know what it is. It is non-con. It's all of the aggressive, abusive, like stuff that we hear that women tend to gravitate towards when we look at visual porn, except it's written. So this is rape fetishism, basically. And at this convention, which is astounding, like, could you imagine a male convention on this topic? At this convention, female-led, female-managed, a targeted female genre. At this convention, a man gets sexually assaulted in public by multiple people. And not just sexually assaulted, apparently hunted down, groped in such a way that he ended up blacking out from the panic of it. And then he had an AirTag put on his person to keep tracking him. Like, this is appalling. Could you imagine? Like, remember all of the minuscule bullshit that we had to deal with these attacks on conventions by feminists. Sorry, Voicat is being very vociferous for some reason. I apologize, guys. You remember that, Brian? Like, do you no, I'm not going to. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you remember all of how trivial it was, how it was all about, oh, I have to deal with other human beings in my space who might want to interact with me in certain ways. No, I don't recall any groping. I think that if there had been, those would have been the memorable events, not someone approaching a woman in
Undressing
an
me with their
elevator.
eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone being a little bit I don't know, hovery towards a cosplayer. I think that if that had actually happened, this incident would be burned in our mind, but I don't
Absolutely.
recall it.
Cosplay is not consent was a big mantra at all the mainstream
Yeah,
cons, right?
yeah,
And they would
cosplay.
like
That's
they would have signs everywhere. And of course, they
mhm.
would never really define that like consent. Like people were there taking pictures. And so like if somebody wanted to, and they often did do this, they would get really like they would like call security on someone who took a picture that they happened to
Yeah,
be in if they were like dressed up, you know?
yeah. It was just it was ridiculous what the community had to accommodate in terms of people's feels, well, women's feels, specific group of women, let's be honest.
Women's feels, yeah.
A specific group of women who say that they speak for all women. Let's put it that way. And they do that because it gives them more clout. But I remember all that. And then this, right? This convention has done where is the movement? A penis is
Where is the
not consent.
hashtag?
Like he doesn't give consent just by existing. And this was a cosplayer, guys. This was talent at the convention. I've never heard of booth babes being treated like this. And if they were, men would have ended up in jail. Let's be frank. The police would have come in. This would probably be a situation where the entire convention and the concept was shut down completely. Right. And there wouldn't be any like, oh, well, how can we reframe this to make women out to be the real victims? Herpa derp. It would be shut down. And it would have launched an entire review of the genre of convention that this is part of. And then there would be masculinists who would insist on panels to review women's behavior for offense and potential degradation of men. But that's not what happens because it's a man. Because we live in a patriarchy that teaches men an identity that makes them a sexual resource for women. I'm going to repeat that. This patriarchy, for the benefit of men, teaches men an identity that makes them feel like they need to be grateful or silent when they are sexually abused and sexually exploited by women. So this patriarchy turns men into a sexual resource for women. I hate using the word patriarchy. It's absolutely ridiculous because, again, it has so much feminist baggage. Because they'll say that patriarchy is for the benefit of men. It's men raping and abusing women for the benefit of men. And yet this is a convention where women are fetishizing that behavior. and then they engage in that behavior towards a man. And it's just okay.
Yeah.
So rape,
Yeah.
this patriarchy. Anyway, we're going to go through all of that. I just wanted to get my first rant out because this is right in my wheelhouse. This just hits my wheelhouse because I've always been about trying to bring attention to male victims and female victims of female predators, and see that they get, attention and services, and also that feminists don't get to marginalize them in order to use rape and domestic violence as a bludgeon against men.
Yep.
And
All right. So before
incidentally,
we start, I did get a Rumble rant. I wanted to get it out of the
okay,
way, and then you can do the things. So Gorlock,
yeah.
thank you, Gorlock, in the Rumble chat gives us $10 and says, "My tip for the day: continue the good work live Rumble." Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Okay. So did you tell them about the just the tip thing and the fundraiser
Okay, yes, yeah.
thing
Oh yeah,
already?
there was one more thing I wanted to get to it before I shill, guys.
All
One
right.
more
All right.
thing. All right. So I was lying in bed last night thinking about this crap, as I do. That's why I don't get any sleep. And I was thinking about, all right, so feminists conjecture, this is in feminist framework, like academia, right? Like the lay feminist doesn't know the full extent of the horror that is feminism. But feminists in academia conjecture that men use rape and domestic violence to uphold patriarchy. Right? Before we get into why that's so ridiculous, I want to describe something that happened in the Middle Ages. It was illegal for a peasant to own a sword. Now, why is it the case that it was illegal for a peasant to own a sword? Because the aristocrats wanted a monopoly on the violence that maintained the system, right? They wanted to be able to be the ones they wanted basically a cartel. They wanted a monopoly on the violence that maintained the system. So they made it illegal for peasants to use swords. A capital offense. If a peasant had a sword, off with his head. Or maybe it wasn't that bad, but at the very least, imprisonment, fines, whatever. So they actively suppressed peasants using the tools that they used to maintain the social structure, right? What is happening in our patriarchy? Patriarchy uses rape and domestic violence to maintain the social structure, and yet the people who are most free to use it are women. And patriarchy apparently also teaches men to shut up about it. So do you understand? Like, this makes no sense. If that was used by patriarchy to maintain the structure, they'd be like aristocrats. They would go out of their way to make sure that the peasants, women, never had access to the tools that maintained the structure. In a patriarchy, as per feminist imagining, women would be subject to the greatest censure when they use domestic violence and sexual assault, because they would be appropriating the tools of the patriarchy, in order to unravel it. So women would be subject to all of the fines, the oversight. They would be more likely to be arrested, convicted. They would serve longer sentences for engaging in domestic violence against men. There would be absolutely no question that women's sexual violence against men is a horror that should be punished by long prison sentences. And in the past, before we were less progressive, by simply killing the woman. Like, this is what would really happen if feminist patriarchy was actually true. And now we're going to listen to a bunch of sexually entitled predators use the concept of feminist patriarchy to justify continuing to be irresponsible, selfish, abusive, entitled, narcissistic rapists. Okay.
Yep.
I should have squished Void Cat. I'm sorry. If she comes back, I'll give her a squish. I promise. But all right, let me get into the things. I had to get that out before I was calm enough to tell you. If you want to send us a message and the tip, please do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. It's the very best way for you to send us funds because we get the full benefit of them. And I will try to do the Trump hands instead of the bird hands, or maybe the Italian hands. Okay, the very best way. very best way to send us those funds, and the best way for you to send us a comment, because we know where it goes and it stays there and you get a little more space and it doesn't go through YouTube's comment enhancement system, whatever you want to use, whatever you want to redefine that euphemism for. Also, I want to do a big thank you to Machine and a Quran Strong. Machine put in 1,000 buckaroos over the night for our monthly fundraiser, getting us over the top. Quran Strong put in $25. So we have finished our monthly fundraiser a week early, which is great because we need to go into funding the actual meetup, which is September 13th in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. If you're interested, go to feedthebadger.com/event to get more info. But we are now putting on that fundraiser so I can get the cost of the venue off of my credit card and also get the funds to get Brian to the event, because he is going to need funds this time significantly more because he has to fly due to his Serve-a-Day close encounter. That's a lot of deep lore, or is it deep lore? It's more like medium lore.
Recent lore, I guess.
Recent lore. If you have any questions, just ask us in the comments stream and I'll explain. But anyway, feedthebadger.com/just the tip if you want to send us a message and a tip. Feedthebadger.com/event if you want to learn more about our event coming up really quickly. So if you want to go, you better learn more now and also support it so that we can put it on and I can get it off my credit card. All right, so let's go for it.
All right, so we're going to be looking at this article from smartbitchestrashybooks.com. It is a feminist article. I checked on it. All of the people involved have pronouns in their bio, and they boast about their diverse identities. So this is definitely a feminist thing. And for some reason, feminists have this like weird I don't know. They had this weird thing for like retro imagery, like horn rim glasses, and I don't get it, but they do it a lot. You know, they're like constantly reminding us that they know what the '60s are for some reason. But anyway, maybe they never shook that from Gloria Steinem's days. So here's the blog post from SB Sarah. SB stands for Smart Bitch. So Smart Bitch Sarah, Sinners and Stardust and Sexual Assault. Okay, I'll skip the trigger warnings at the beginning. The con drama has been nonstop this year as people try to launch weekend events and 1, 2, or 19 things go wrong. The latest, Sinners and Stardust. Sinners and Stardust is a weekend event that hosts an author signing and a dark romance ball to celebrate the readers and authors of dark romance. At the ball, apparently, many things went very, very wrong. It was the top few trending topics on Threads, in fact. And then there's like a screenshot of all of these different, I guess, interactions with trending topics. And one of them was the Sinners and Stardust thing. Look at that. More posts on this topic than on Taylor Swift's album and Jillian Michaels being a racist, because they don't like Jillian Michaels because I guess they think she's a racist now. Whatever. Oh, by the way, we got a super chat from Albatross for 2, and he says, we apparently live in a limp-wristed patriarchy. Thank you. Okay.
No crap. No crap detected.
Yeah.
The limpest wristed patriarchy ever. Like, I mean, you'd think if patriarchy uses rape to maintain itself, at least it wouldn't give men an identity in which they have to submit to female sexual entitlement without complaint. Yeah. Okay, I know that's a little complicated. It's probably just alienating 300 billion
no,
people.
it's okay. So she's going to describe the event, and I want you to pay attention to the tone of this. So what happened? H.G. Carlton reported on Instagram that cosplayer Animus, who was in attendance, was allegedly groped to the point that their body paint, and they're saying there, even though Animus is a man. I just want to clarify, they're going to use like non-binary pronouns sometimes, but Animus is a man and even identifies as one, in case you're one of those people that needs to hear that. To their body paint was smeared with handprints. They were allegedly sexually assaulted and had an AirTag placed somewhere near or on their person. And here is a
Allegedly sexually assaulted. Who are you defending here?
yeah, allegedly sexually assaulted and had an AirTag placed somewhere
I mean,
near
there's
or on
nobody
their
who's even been identified in this crowd. Like, I think we
Yep.
can, at this point, we can assume if there's this physical evidence that he has been touched in this manner, that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, handprints all over your body, sort of a incontrovertible thing. And honestly, this is sexual touching, so it's sexual assault. There's no way
Yeah.
around it. But it's interesting that suddenly she's protecting people, or she's softening it. She's not
Yep.
protecting anyone because no one is named and no one is going to jail, guys. No one. And this event is going to continue with a
Oh
few.
yeah, yeah. No,
A
I
few
know. We'll get to
alterations.
that. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but okay. So this is a Instagram post, I guess, shared by HD Carlton author that just sort of describes their version of the event. So, all right, y'all. It appears I have to make a post that I'm frankly pretty goddamn upset I have to make. This post is for the readers who don't understand consent and boundaries only. A lot of you may know a good friend of mine, Animus, who is also at Ethereal Treason. He has attended a signing of mine in the past and obviously is a music artist. So this guy's not just a cosplayer guy, but he also is a musician. Okay. This past weekend, he attended Sinners and Stardust and probably had one of the most heartbreaking experiences. Heartbreaking suggests, I guess, he didn't expect it. So listen, he's a man, right? But do we think that means it's okay to put your hands all over him without consent, or to put your hands in his waistband, or down his pants, or touch his dick? Hello? Do we think it's okay to quite literally back him into a corner and touch all over him to the point that he literally cannot tell how many hands are on him and whose are whose? Do we think it's okay to send him into an actual panic attack because of this? Furthermore, do we think it's okay to interrogate him and insist he detail how he kidnapped a woman despite him repeatedly saying he wouldn't, and that, the shit is fiction? Trash talk my books to him and try to get him to join in?
Why?
And then attempt to follow him when he tries to get the fuck away. He had a sweat resistant black paint airbrushed on his chest. So it's sweat resistant black paint airbrushed on his chest, and was told the only thing that will remove it is body oils. Why did this man end the night with almost all of it rubbed off and a handprint smeared across his chest? I want y'all to seriously sit with yourselves and your actions and ask yourself if you would be okay with a strange man doing that to you.
Can you imagine? Right. Yeah. And she's speaking to the absolute sense of entitlement and ignorance of women. But on the other hand, why do we have to have this conversation? Why is it that this generation of women doesn't get it? Right. And I'm going to show you receipts for this. This generation it's their attitudes towards male victims of female sexual assaulters has deteriorated. It has regressed since previous generations, like my generation, like boomer generation. We had more respectful attitudes towards men's sexuality and their consent than millennials and Zoomers. Can you believe that? Over the last 50 years, the attitudes for women towards male sexual assault victims has regressed. I wonder why. Huh? What could possibly be one of the causal factors of that regression? Perhaps a group of people with extremely nefarious motives taking over the narrative around sexual assault? Venal motives around money and clout, taking over the narrative of sexual assault and framing it in a way that provides the most money and clout and the least amount of responsibility for women? Could that be the fact? Could that be why this is occurring? And it's not just this incident. This incident is illustrative of something, of a bigger shift, of what they term a millennial shift, what the researchers term a millennial shift, which is younger women are 3 to 4 times more likely to engage in violent sexual assault than older women or any generation of men. Literally, the women putting on these events are part of a group that is the most violently sexual, like sexually violent, since we've been keeping track. And also, not just that, they have studies show that they have the worst attitude towards their victims. And also, one of the causal factors for female sexual assault, or the causal. Okay, sorry, this is gonna be a little chaotic because I got to squish the void cat. All right, we're gonna squish you. Nope. You will be okay. Fine, no squishing. All right, one of the causal factors, or one of the causal, I'll just use the word factors. I'm blanking a little. Is actual hatred towards the opposite sex. It isn't a causal factor for men for some reason, but it is for women. So that means that there is an association between women hating men or feeling resentment towards men and engaging in sexual assault against them. I want you guys to wrap your mind around all this. And we'll bring up all the receipts for this. This is just mealy-mouthed. Yeah, it's great that she's telling these women to take responsibility. And incidentally, can you imagine the horror of this? The only thing that can move this paint is body oils, right? So these subterranean creatures surrounded him and put their tentacles all over him to the point where they were smearing their body oils. And you got to imagine, like, this is a convention. Hygiene is optional for a lot of these people.
Yeah, these chicks probably weren't attractive. I'm just going to say it. Like, they probably were not attractive. This wasn't like, when the Hard Day's Night video where the Beatles are running from hordes of, like, cute girls. These are probably not like that at all. So
no, they're not.
This isn't Gal Gun.
They're not even, like, passably mid, probably.
No.
And hygiene issues.
Like a bunch of Kathy Bateses.
Could you imagine? And I'm going to use the word neckbeard. I don't even have to use it ironically here because they probably were. Could you imagine being cornered by a bunch of grotesque neckbeards and then having them smear their body oils all over you? The stink, like a warthog's ass. Like, good Lord. So there's no way. I don't think there's any man alive who actually fantasize. Well, maybe there is. I shouldn't say that. There probably is one or two who would fantasize about such a thing. But I think most people can agree that this is an extremely unpleasant experience. And it wouldn't be better if they were attractive. Well, it would be better. Let's face it.
Only slightly, but I don't think I still, it doesn't change the fact that
it doesn't change the fact that it's a sexual assault. Right? I mean, women have gone through all kinds of effort to say, oh, even if he's attractive, it's still sexual assault. Well, it's the same thing applies. But the thing is that they probably weren't attractive. Let's be honest.
No, probably not.
But they were probably the T app customers.
No, they probably, I mean, like, considering how many hands were on him, it could have just been like one organism with just hands all over it. Like, he couldn't even make it out.
Cthulhu-esque.
Just a blob,
monster from the female sexual id.
Yeah.
Just vomited out. Okay, but it's still, even if they were all hot models, well, the thing with that is they're more likely that he'd be consenting to that, supposedly. But it doesn't matter. This was sexual assault, right? And I believe that this was his friend and the author. He cosplays one of her characters. And she's talking about this, and her description is probably from a woman. Her description is probably better than any of the others. But let's keep going because it gets worse.
Okay. So H.C. Carlton author continues. And if that wasn't bad enough, during the time of this mob, him and another author received a notification that an AirTag was tracking him, which showed it on his person all the way to his hotel room. He knows how AirTags work and that close by ones can trigger notifications. This was not the case. Also, he got the notification way later because he had no signal at the event and didn't come through until he got signal again. That is literally sickening, and I'm ill that someone might have planted a tracking device on him.
For what purpose?
Well, I don't know. Probably to show up at his hotel room. You guys do know that these books are fiction, right? We enjoy these books because they're fiction. We do not condone these actions in real life. And while it's okay to act out your fantasies consensually with a trusted adult, it is not okay to ask a complete stranger to do so or take it upon yourselves to sexually assault him. Like, I'm so
Okay,
incredibly disappointed. Oh, did you want to say something?
I did want to say something. You know what? I'll leave it to the end. Let's just keep going. Well,
All right.
honestly, this actually works better for shorts if we do a bit and then respond to it. If this had been a male rape fetishist event and this had happened to a female performer, even if the specific men who engaged in the gang sexual assault weren't identified, the convention organizers would be dealing with legal shit. And at the very least, the convention circuit would be calling for the entire convention to be shut down.
They would have brought in SEAL Team 6.
This is not acceptable. This event would be annihilated if it was reversed.
Yep. It would be banned forever.
And again, remember my example of the peasants not being allowed to use a sword? Feminists say that that rape is patriarchy's swords. And yet, who gets carte blanche to enact their sexually entitled fantasies on the opposite sex? And no, that weapon would not be allowed to be in the hands of women. And yet instead, what we're seeing is that peasants are the ones who are allowed to have swords, while aristocrats are denied them, which means their entire construction is absolute, utter dreck and bullshit. And yet they continue to trot it out because it allows them to use rape as a rhetorical tool weapon against men. Okay, let's keep going.
All right. I'm so incredibly disappointed that he was treated this way. I brought him into this space because I trusted that he would be safe with y'all. And the fact that he wasn't is quite eye-opening. Because they're women. She thought because they're women. I think that's why. And the fact that he wasn't is quite eye-opening. And boy, does this affect my decisions for my own future attendances. Especially because he was not the only one disrespected at this event by a long shot. So many authors are coming out about people crossing boundaries in a multitude of ways. I've had to have this conversation before with asking my husband gross personal questions. So why are we taking it a step further and assaulting people now? I'm genuinely shocked.
There's no oversight. Like, why are we taking it a step further? Because you're not held responsible for your behavior. No, none of the women who did this are going to be held responsible. None of the convention organizers who constructed a situation where this happens are going to be held responsible. Like, nothing. And the thing is that you aren't taking responsibility for not realizing the danger you were putting your friend in. Because you think that women are angels, and you probably buy into the idea that rape is something that patriarchy uses against women, right? Therefore, and also that narrative emboldens female sexual assaulters, because instead of assaulting men, they're just giving them the opportunity to understand what women feel, right? Okay, so you're part of the problem and you haven't taken responsibility. Never invite one of your male friends to these events. Never. And if you're a man thinking of going to one of these events, do not go. Because there will be a free for all. And these are not attractive women, okay? And they're even less attractive because they're sexual assaulters, right? This is a place where you will have no defense against these women's sexual entitlement. There is no secure, like they say that they're making changes, bullshit. They're not making the changes that need to happen, which is holding women accountable for their sexual behavior and knocking off these shitty narratives that justify their sexual violence against men, right? That soft pedal women's responsibility. Because if this woman actually understood men or cared about them, she would know that women engage in this kind of behavior towards men in these kind of events. And if the con operators should have been aware of this. Instead, they marinated in their bullshit about reality that, rape is something men do. And, well, maybe women do it, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. We don't have to worry about it. It's women. So you construct a scenario where you dangle a fucking chicken in front of a bunch of goddamn hungry foxes. You constructed this problem, and there's no apparent recognition that happened, that the con organizers constructed this problem. Yes, the rapist, the grapist, the sexual assaulters are responsible for their part in it, but the con organizers constructed this problem because they did not recognize the situation that they were putting these men in. And they did not recognize the situation because their minds are tainted with a particular framework that denies the rate and depth of women's violent sexual entitlement. They should have known. If they were responsible, they would have known. Do they know now? Probably not. They're probably still making excuses in their boardrooms. So if you're a man, do not go to these events, period. You're a male author, do not go to these events. If you're a male talent, do not go to these events. If you are a drag king, do not go to these events, because if they don't have men to enact their violent sexual entitlement on, they'll do it to drag kings, trans men. Well, you know, I don't want to call trans men, butch lesbians. If you're a tomboy, stay away, because the femmes are on a warpath and they have no accountability to anyone. Okay.
All right. So continuing on, and this kind of like brings home where I think her perspective comes from. I'm genuinely shocked that as women or women presenting, some of y'all thought it was okay to act this way. And as someone who brought him into this space, I feel responsible for him. And I'm so fucking sad that some of my own readers were a part of this behavior. What?
You are 100% responsible for bringing him into this without knowing. And it's everywhere. I don't know how you could not know about hen nights, or how bouncers talk about dealing with women during male strip shows. How could you not be aware of this? You have your head so far up feminist ideology, you can't see the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If this was you, please learn basic respect, boundaries, and how to ask for consent. Please learn basic respect, boundaries, and how to ask for consent. Treat others the way you would want to be treated by a strange man. And for the love of God, please do not ever come near me in public. Animus has also posted their own statement about what happened, explaining that they are not pressing charges. No, again, the original writer of this blog is not saying Animus is a man, even though we know Animus is a man. They're saying they and their. I don't know why. I don't know if it's to like soften the blow or like curb the cognitive dissonance of this, but it's weird that the author of this, the smart bitch Sarah, whatever her name is, wrote that. But did you want to say something before I read Animus's statement? Because Animus's statement is really frustrating too for different reasons.
But it's like, this is, yes, it is. It's because she has cognitive dissonance over this issue. And this is why I say men stay the fuck. Anyone masculine at all, masculine presenting, or a man, stay the fuck away from this, because this is a woman who will not take responsibility for what's happening and wants to deflect it onto a narrative that is more comfortable to her. That's what's important here, is these women's comfort. And like, they're not displaying any sense of true responsibility for this. Like, even the woman who brought him, okay, don't bring another man. Don't do it. Like, there is no accountability. Women do not have accountability for their sexual violence. So when you put men in these scenarios, you are 100% responsible for what happens. Well, the women are also responsible, but they're not going to take responsibility. They're rapists. Let's be honest. Yep. That's why they're rapists. So you have to take responsibility and do not bring your male friends to these events, period. And don't, like, again, I would take this so far as do not bring any of your male presenting or trans male friends to these events either. Leave them at home where they'll be safe. Because these be graping everybody up there.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So Animus is the man who was assaulted that went to the event. Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank the community for the overwhelming support since these incidences have been exposed. I also want to commend Sinners and Stardust for implementing a new guideline and rules to make events like these safer for everyone attending. Aside from the ball, I had an amazing time at the signing, and I'm so grateful that I got to meet all of you. It's a lot of like upfront PR
We
stuff.
get to
First of all,
continue to
before
have
I
your convention.
criticize anything, please know that I'm not your enemy, right? I would like to make it known that I'm not comfortable pressing charges, partly because there was a lot of people involved, and because of my mask, I couldn't see very well. It's impossible to remember every one of them, and truthfully, I don't want to force myself to anyway.
Okay,
When I
just a
was
sec.
cornered at the
Just a sec.
ball, okay.
What? I don't want you to think of me as your enemy. Why are you taking responsibility for this in any capacity? Like, why is the focus on you being the enemy of these rapey bitches? Like, what? How did it be put on you, their comfort? And incidentally, oh, the con is implementing changes. The con should no longer exist. You get one group sexual assault and then you're done. Never to be seen again. Like, Jesus Christ. There's no going back. There is nothing you can do to make this better except disband and say to these women, your sexual entitlement caused us to realize we are creating a dangerous nuisance. What that means is you're creating the conditions for rape to occur. Right? They used to call these like rape corners or something in architecture. They're places where you can't see, like they're not visible from the public. They're sort of secreted off. This entire convention is a rape corner.
Yep.
It's a rape corner waiting to happen. Right? And until women generally take responsibility for their sexual violence, and we're going in the wrong way for that. Like Zoomer and millennial women are worse for that than Boomer and Gen Z women. They're worse. You're going in the wrong direction for women taking responsibility for their violent sexual entitlement. Until they do, this is a rape corner event. If you bring men to it. So don't. What they should do is they should probably just for their own safety exclude men from the event entirely. But they're not going to do that because they continue to operate under the assumption that women are angels. And that assumption is leading to women's behavior becoming worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
And of course, well, that's the thing. Like, it didn't surprise me that this guy was being so like, I don't know, diplomatic to the point of just self
Insanity.
erasure. Just like, well, I guess it's my fault. I did it. I'm sorry I don't want to make enemies with people. Like, this is just like the situation you're in as a man. That's why you can't be around these people. Anyway, okay, so
I actually do have a thank you to give to
all right.
OKFS for 250 to the fundraiser for the event, September 13th, Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Thank you.
I don't see any super chows, and please do help us out with that because it is somewhat expensive renting the venue, getting Brian up. And if we can't make that amount, then Brian can't come up. So feedthebadger.com/event. Support the event. We have I think a super chow
just came through.
Yeah.
Anonymous sends us $5 and says, and they thought he was safe because we are feminists. We know better. We're better people. Yes, exactly.
No.
But that's what they think, though. They characterize themselves as better people that understand and they believe in equality and they believe all the good things. And if you're not a feminist, you don't believe the good things, you believe the bad things. And therefore, this couldn't possibly happen. And yet it happened.
Yeah, well, so, why would they be better in this circumstance? In fact, they're significantly worse because
of course they are worse. But my point is that they're going into this. Everyone involved went into this. This is why they're all shocked. because they were like, we're feminists. This can't happen. We're better people than other people. We're just the good people. We believe the good things. And people who don't believe what we believe, they obviously believe the bad things. And they're the bad people. And that's the bad place you don't want to be because they're bad. This is the simplistic thinking they have. So when something does happen, they're like, I am shocked. I can't believe. What? What is this? How does this? We're the good people. It's impossible. But no, this guy's saying we are feminists. We know better. We're better people. That is exactly the mindset. It is exactly the mindset. And that's why when this happens, these people don't understand it. Because they're like, wait, how? We're the good people. Or they justify it. Well, actually, you wanted it. You know?
I can't fucking believe there's somebody in the special chat, Gwenny, saying, pick me losers, get a hobby. Like, literally, we are talking about a man who was sexually assaulted in a convention, a feminist convention. Like it's either feminist or it's feminist friendly. And I would imagine that most of the people are involved are feminist, right? That's what we're talking about. And you are focusing on me being a pick-me. Look, most men don't want to talk about sexual assault. And they don't particularly want to listen to a woman talking about men being sexually assaulted. This is not a comfortable topic for men. No man is going to pick me because I talk about it, but I talk about it because it's important. Because male victims of sexual assault shouldn't be marginalized in order to make rape into a rhetorical weapon against men. Like this is just, it's horrifying on every freaking level. Every freaking level. It is absolutely 100% wrong. And this is a manifestation of it. These people saying, oh, we're good people because we're feminists, but they buy into rhetoric that marginalizes male victims of sexual assault, puts the onus on men existentially, taking it off individual women who actually engage in violent sexual entitlement. This is all a shit show. And I'm going to call it out simply because it violates my sense of justice and morality. It doesn't matter. Men aren't going to pick me for that. What? They'll pick me if I put my boobs on display. Not if I'm like, oh, women raping men is bad and we need to actually treat it with the dignity and respect it deserves. And stop soft pedaling it like, oh, well, now he's discovered what a woman lives, the experiences. Like, what the okay.
All right.
Good Lord.
Back to the article. Or
Yes,
the blog. Okay. So what else does this guy say? Again, this is the guy who was assaulted for cosplaying around thirsty ass ham beasts. When I was cornered at the ball, I panicked and blacked out. So a lot of that night is a blur, and I'm still trying to process it. If I'm being honest, I felt their hands better than I could see their faces. This is like, I guess, one of the reasonings behind why I'm not going to press charges. I'm new to this world, and this was my first big event, so I'm not familiar with anyone in the community outside of my friends yet. But with that said, I do not want to put myself through any more of this by dealing with authorities and trying to remember names and faces and who did what. I just want to make music, read awesome books, and continue to help support the amazing authors in this community. As for the AirTag, we were unable to find out who planted it. After the ball, I undressed for bed, and by the time I was notified the next day, we had already left the hotel. We did confirm the AirTag was no longer on me or in my bag and was likely left somewhere in the room from undressing that night. All we know is based on the notification, it started tracking me when I was at the ball and surrounded by people, and it tracked me all the way to my hotel room, which was a different hotel in Boston and not the same one as the event. While this was extremely unnerving to find out, I'm glad I didn't see it until later. I'm glad nothing further happened that night. I'm sorry if my decision is disappointing to everyone. I know you all have asked that I press charges, and I really don't want to upset any of you by not doing so. Of course, you don't want to upset anybody anywhere at all, ever. So I just wanted awareness so precautions can be put into place to protect others in the future. Situations like these are far too common, and even though I am upset it happened to me, I'm still just glad to know the event is taking steps to help prevent it from happening again in the future. I hope other book events can do the same so all people feel safe. for those who say that I should have set better boundaries, in the moment when things happened, it brought back past trauma, which ultimately made me
No,
shut
no,
down
no,
and
no.
black
You
out.
don't take that on. Like, seriously, dude. Those people
Yeah.
need to fuck themselves. How are you supposed to set better boundaries when a herd of wildebeest come stampeding towards you and then start putting their tongues all over you? Like, what boundaries could you possibly set? Unless you're like a superhero or you have super strength, you could just send them flying. Like, what boundaries could you have possibly set here? Like, who
I mean,
the hell said
if
that?
he fought back, he could have been accused. I mean,
Yes.
he still could be accused of something. It's possible. So,
Yeah, good Lord, they would love to top this shit. That's the other thing. These women who get into these headspaces, they do this kind of stuff because it's part of the fantasy. So they'll sexually assault this guy and then accuse him of assault because it's part of the fantasy that they were the ones who were taken advantage of, or because they want to absolve themselves of guilt by projecting it onto the nearest target. Men, do not go to these events. Do not go to them. Sam, I am. Not with green eggs or ham. Well, no, I do not like these ham beasts. I do not like them, Sam, I am. Like, don't go to these freaking events. Okay.
yeah. All right. Um, do 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 do. Set better boundaries, right. I also didn't want anyone to feel unsafe or disrespected and wanted to make sure everyone had a good time, even if it resulted in me being the one to take the hit. I am sorry you feel that I should have
What?
done more, and I truly wish I did as well.
Okay, that
Yeah?
sounds a little bit martyry, but also
Yeah,
his refusal
definitely.
to,
Like, I guess I'll just get assoulted by all these women.
I
I don't
guess I
want people to
gotta
feel
take one
unsafe.
for
Like,
feminism.
yeah, no, this guy's totally a male feminist. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Um,
His refusal, Kadoko's evil twin says his refusal to press charges, could it be that he believes nothing would come of it? As in no justice. That's entirely possible.
that's
Like
possible.
yeah. I mean, this particular, he doesn't seem to, well, maybe he feels like a bit of responsibility for others, but I don't think that the changes that they've instituted are going to change anything. And again, if this was reversed, if the sexes were reversed, this convention would cease to exist. And the convention organizers would be up on charges of something. Like something based around creating an unsafe space, like a genuinely, like you can get charged for creating a space that's likely to cause criminal activity.
Yep.
So they would be facing something. But no, they're not, because it's a woman's event. And in our patriarchy, it just hands swords out to women. Just like every aristocracy in the past was just like, peasants, come get your free swords. That's the way we roll here. We just give you access to the thing that keeps the society in our favor. And patriarchy just gives women free access to the thing that supposedly keeps society in men's favor. Oh, good Lord.
Yep. All right, he continues. Thank you, HD Carlton, for being the voice when mine fell short and supporting me through this, as well as Enez, Santana, Hawk, and everyone else behind closed doors that continue to be my support when I need it the most. And I want to thank the book community again for showing up to defend me and for the incredible amount of support. I truly was not expecting
Defend
it
you
to this level.
from
He
what?
wasn't expecting it to this level. And every one of you helped restore what those at the ball stripped from me, which is my safety in this community. I don't think them speaking out is the same as you getting like fucking
Defend
manhandled
you?
by a horde, but
Why?
okay.
Why does this man need defense? Like this community. All right, so there's some members of this community that defended him against what? Being sexually assaulted? Nobody else sees that as a bit of a problem. Could you imagine? Oh, the like this a female talent
Well,
gets
what do
groped.
they mean by protect? I just said I'm sorry that happened to you. Press charges. No, like no, nothing else happened out of that. Like I'm just saying it's like
If
if
that
the
happened in front of me, I would be throwing punches.
yeah.
Like, but it. Ugh. But
Okay.
my
Hmm.
okay. Why does he need protecting? Why is the community, anyone in the community, attacking him? Right? What does he need protection from? Like maybe this is talking about the people who engaged in the sexual assault, but who at the event protected him? There's no like, yeah, just saying, sorry that happened to you, press charges. That's not protection. That's absolutely minuscule effort. Was there anyone at the event? Did the con organizers put any security in place, knowing that something like this could happen? Right? Was there anyone, or did this guy have a bodyguard? Knowing, understanding the violent sexual entitlement of this generation of women. Was he surrounded by bodyguards? This is what you really need to do. That's the change that needs to happen, is that these men need to be escorted by bodyguards, probably women who are willing to throw hands at these bitches if they take liberties, because a man is going to, he's going to end up in jail if he does that. So where are they? Where was the security in all this? Did you not think you had to have it? Because you think that you have this. And the thing is that feminists will say, oh yes, patriarchy says that women are sexual angels and pure, and that they do not challenge that in themselves, because it's convenient to continue to use rape as a rhetorical weapon against men. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
This is infuriating.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm taking some time to process and heal, and I will continue to pour my heart and soul into my music. I hope more than anything, this incident is not what everyone chooses to remember me by, and that one day my music will speak louder. Thank you, Animus. God, that was kind of cringe.
Yeah.
Dana Lee, an author, posted, I'd like to remind people that kissing an author is super uncomfortable. Like that. What?
More
Like,
sexual assault.
isn't that just sexual assault? Like, or if a man just kissed an author, like a female author, wouldn't that just be like sexual assault and it gets thrown in fucking solitary confinement? Like when a woman does to a man, they're like, that's kind of cringe, guys. That's kind of uncomfortable. Hey, man. Hey, watch it, bucko. Hey, you're crossing. You might be crossing a line there. We might have to like call it uncomfortable.
Yeah, it might be like using your tub, your cutlery from the inside out rather than the outside in. A little bit of a faux pas there.
Yeah, watch that business.
Go watch that.
I mean, cultural differences and all aside, but so
Lord,
they won't even. They're just like uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable.
Multiple
That's not like
sexual
somebody
assault.
farting in an elevator with you. This is
slightly stinky, but still feel safe. Yeah. But moist, but safe. But look, this.
All right.
So at this convention, multiple sexual assaults took place, and nobody's asking questions, like the questions that need to be asked, like how do we stop this event from continuing? And there's no general outcry in the community about needing like a committee of men to oversee their sexual assault policy. Would they do that? Of course not. But yet, what happened when a woman was approached in an elevator in a nerd convention? Like, what happened with this? All this cosplay is not consent. Immediately, they installed these star panels of women to control the social environment at these cons. That's not happening here, is it? No, it's not. And again, I don't even think a convention will exist after this. Multiple sexual assaults, multiple people being sexually assaulted at this convention, and they're still continuing. They're not just like hanging their head in shame and ending it and saying, guys, no, you don't get this anymore, because you have proven through your multiple sexual assaults by this community. And I say the community because this is like a gang assault with nobody actually trying to pull these women off. I haven't heard any testimony of that. That sounds more like it's a community level problem.
Yep. Okay.
In public too, not just weird crap going on in the corners of the internet. This is happening in public. Oh, good Lord. Okay.
All right. So the original blog post continues. Other attendees have mentioned audiobook narrators and voiceover artists were also subjected to lewd and inappropriate comments. One attendee, whose thread's name changed between Giley Reads, I guess, and Jay Reads before they deleted their account, was allegedly a conference volunteer, and as part of their ball attire, wore a strap-on dildo and flashed people with it. And B, that
Okay.
link contains a picture of this person and their dildo, so I'm not going to click on that, obviously. Reports
Well,
from
we're
other attendees have included that they were asked, do you want to see something? Or that this person was whipping it out on an elevator with no comment. Jade posted an apology on Threads before disappearing. Do you want to say anything before I read this person's apology for pulling the dildo out?
So this is a real problem. And this is something that cannot be contained. The reason why we can have conventions where men put them on and all that is men will police other men's behavior. And they will know that this is inappropriate. The problem here is that it is a free-for-all for women's sexual entitlement. And there's nothing to stop it. There's nothing to stop it. And I'm going to go through all of the statistics that show what a problem this is. That women's violent sexual entitlement is becoming more and more of a problem. And nobody's speaking out against it in a way that matters. Because if you do it within the feminist framework, you're actually justifying it. Because women are taking back their power, man. They're making the man understand how they've felt. Because even though there's never been a time where women's sexual assault on women wasn't socially stigmatized, and it wasn't just because it was an assault against her father's property. No, that was how fines and punishments were determined in a society without freaking prisons. And it wasn't just an assault on her father's property. Her father would be giving her money to get married in many cases. That was her money. It was an assault on her inheritance in the form of dowry. Okay.
Yep. All right, so this is the person's post about her doing the dildo thing. Here to hold myself accountable. I am deeply, deeply sorry from the bottom of my heart to anyone who I made uncomfortable or hurt at the ball. That sounds like a non-apology. I'm sorry that you're hurt. I really truly was not thinking clearly, and I was ignorant to the fact that it would hurt some. Something I thought was just harmless fun, where a lot of others did as well, would not be viewed the same way as everyone else. It will never happen again. See, when you say a lot of others did as well, it's like saying, well, all of my friends thought it was okay, so I did it. Being human, we make mistakes and we learn from them. I promise this was a teaching moment. It was in no way me trying to be malicious, but I see that it was. I did not mean to be that person in any way, shape, or form, and I hate that I did that to someone attending the dance. Please forgive me. I cannot say how sorry I am enough. But this person, did they get banned or anything or go to jail? Like, could you imagine if a dude had done that?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
All right. I have a few thoughts on this. Okay. This is a person who ran around with a dildo flashing it. Of things that you could do, this is actually not the worst in terms of the spectrum of potential sexual assault. Where are the women who sexually assaulted this guy taking responsibility? And why aren't the organizers saying, until these women take responsibility, we are not putting on another event? At the very least, if the organizers aren't going to face any repercussions for constructing this problem, this rape corner event, why aren't the women taking responsibility? And until those women take responsibility, how can any man or male presenting person feel safe at conventions like this? Or this convention in particular? Okay? Where are them, those assaulters taking responsibility? Not just against the cosplayer, the talent, but also against the ones who assaulted and sexually harassed the authors at the event and the authors' husbands. Like this looks like a fucking free-for-all of sexual entitlement. Where are those women taking responsibility? Like the only one who's taking responsibility is the one who made other women uncomfortable? Isn't that interesting? This is a serious, and that glaring, like that silence tells you volumes.
Yep.
And the silence of the convention organizers not saying something like, until you women who went, take responsibility so we can ban you. We are not going to have this event any further. They have no sense of accountability to the men that they're bringing into their event. None whatsoever. No consideration for the situations that they're putting these men in. None whatsoever. If I was part of this convention, first of all, I would understand the necessity of controlling women's sexuality in this kind of heightened atmosphere, because women's sexuality can become incredibly violent and entitled in these kinds of circumstances. But if this happened, I would resign. And I would do whatever I could to take the convention with me and essentially say, we can't have this because you will not take responsibility for your sexual behavior. And there's no way to make sure men and women are safe from you. And you are not coming out and saying, oh, hey, I did that. I'm sorry. So we can actually identify the bad actors and ban them. Right? They don't want to do that because they want to go to the next one and have another little grope fest, get another freaking victim to sexually assault. And that's the funny thing. These women are responding to this like like you said, it's a faux pas. This isn't a faux pas. These are sexual assaulters. These are rapists. And we just got our freaking stream delisted because I'm using that word. And YouTube hates that word. So we can't actually talk about these issues in a real way. We have to act like children around them. These are rapists. They're going to come to this event because they know there will be vulnerable people at it. And because you aren't recognizing that fact, you aren't making it safe.
Yep. I got a super chow from Tim. Thank you, Tim. Are you a sorcerer by any chance? He gives us $25 and says, keep up the good work. P.S. Update on Alison's book, please.
Oh, okay. I'm in the middle. I have gone through a round of
Edits.
A developmental edit, which is like one of the first. And I have constructed a new summary to work from, a new outline. And I'm exactly in the middle, contending with the middle. Everybody who writes understands what I'm saying when I'm saying I'm at the middle. I'm at the horrifying middle. And I'm still plugging away. If you're in the Discord, you can take part in the writer's retreat and you can see my progress. I am plugging away at it. It is a slog, but I am getting it done. All right.
So Jay Riley says that. Stick a pin in the teaching moment idea because boy, oh boy, you can bet we're coming back to that. What has the response been?
This is not a teachable moment. This is a sexual assault.
Well, she's saying stick a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. So maybe she is going to say something to that effect. I don't know. Let's see. Richard Bier just gave us a super chow for 5. Thank you, Richard. And says, now I am getting a flashback to that library promotion of reading event that looked like a furry convention combined with a pride event with all of the performers rainbow themed and featuring rainbow dildo butt monkey in front of the children. And now there were so many people defending the performance and demonizing those who objected to the display. Yeah, well, what is the cost of women's liberation? Okay, so what has the response been? Mostly horror and condemnation, which is reassuring, but also, as I noted in my initial warning, plenty of victim blaming. There's some you normalize this in your dark romance books rebuttal, which please have many seats and no, you don't get a snack while you wait. We have been battling that same bullshit accusation under many different banners. Normalizing assault is a cousin to gives women unrealistic expectations. No one, as Elliot Harlow says, runs up to George R.R. Martin and threatens him with a sword while folks shrug and go, well, he was asking for it. We don't say this crap much about men or about other genres.
What the fuck? We don't make men take responsibility for all kinds of things that are unrelated to the things that they want to enjoy. What was the last 15 years? Like,
what is Gamergate?
And
what
how
has
this become defending the community? You notice that?
Yes. No, for sure. This is pivoted to I have to defend this like community, the what I do, like my writing and all that. Yep.
I have to defend that, right? It's pivoted to that. And it's pivoted to that because that's what they actually care about. Let's be honest. It's teachable moment. It's uncomfortable. It's cringe. This was multiple sexual assaults at your event. In any sane world, you would be not putting on that event again. Period. Right? You would be being investigated by the police. Okay? Or something for your lack of control over what happened. You wouldn't get a second chance. And the community would not let you have a second chance. And it certainly wouldn't be the case if this was a totally male-dominated, much less like male-dominated rape fetishes event, but just male-dominated anything. This would be the end of your event. The 100% end of your event. And the astounding fact that you are defending your choice of literature instead of recognizing the culpability, it doesn't have to have anything to do with your literature. But the culpability of your community, the fact that these women aren't taking responsibility, the fact that the convention organizers aren't saying we aren't doing this anymore until these women come forward, identify themselves so they can be banned, right? Because that's not happening, because there was no apparent security, because the general population of this ball, the rest of the women didn't step in and stop it. I mean, how many women were engaged in this? How many women were engaged in this? Was this like a mosh pit of women of the entire ball? Like what? How many women were engaged in it? How come other women didn't step in and stop it? Why didn't that happen? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. And what is happening with your policies and expectations? And it's probably not the dark romance that's doing it. Fine. You like to read dark romance. It is a combination of your ideology that justifies male sexual assault by minimizing male victims, by pretending that it is something that men do to uphold patriarchy. Therefore, if a man is assaulted, he's just getting a taste of his own medicine and other crap like that. That's more complicit in this. And where it's complicit isn't the fact that you got a whole bunch of rapists in your convention, which, I guess can happen if you're appealing to women. It is the fact that you're responding to it in this incredibly irresponsible way. This is unbelievably irresponsible. And again, if I were part of this convention committee, which I would not be, but if I were, I would be saying, no, we're not continuing until these women own up to what they did, until they tell us, and then we ban them, right? And if they don't, no more convention. No more for anyone. Because we can't make sure that this is safe.
Yep.
All right.
So, but woo, damn, do we say it about romance and romance readers? It happens to me too when I tell people that I write about romance fiction. I was asked about my sex life on live television. Outsiders are easily comfortable crossing boundaries of conversation to inquire about sex merely because I've mentioned
And
romance
she's
novels.
becoming the victim of this.
Yeah, now
Unbelievable.
it's becoming an attack on sex romance. By the way, who's asking you the sex questions? Are they women? I'm betting they're women. And yet that's not going to come up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The community is a victim of the community having gang sexually assaulted a man. My genre is a victim of this man being sexually assaulted. I'm a victim of this man being sexually assaulted. You know what happens to me at these events? No, we've talked about the sexual assault that occurred at this event that nobody's taking responsibility for. But now we need to talk about how female readers of romance and dark romantacy, how they're marginalized. How did you make yourselves victims of this?
It's a fucking extreme sport.
This is you're right. At this
extreme
point,
victimhood.
Extreme
Victimhood. Let's go.
Like that. Nobody else sees this.
Yeah.
Freaking astounding. Okay.
All right. So anyway, All right.
Is that
Outsiders are
it?
easily comfortable crossing boundaries of conversation to inquire about
What?
sex merely because I've mentioned romance novels. And the crossing of boundaries continues. I do not want to accept the idea that some readers are too fucking stupid to reliably know the difference between reality and fiction, or are so deluded
They're
as to use their
rapists.
fiction to excuse their unacceptable behavior. But
You
holy
write rape
crap, look where we
fiction.
are.
You write rape fiction, you attract rapists. Duh. You attract women who have questionable notions of consent. Duh. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Not just that, but you attract a particular generation that is the most sexually entitled, most violently sexually entitled, and the most freaking willing to excuse it. It is a recipe for disaster. And she's making outsiders to this community. She's making herself out to be a victim of outsiders to the community. Did you notice that? Now it's all our fault, right? This community subjected people, most men, to sexual assaults and sexual harassment. But the real problem is all of us in society, not understanding dark romantacy, not
I think what they don't
understanding
like
it.
is they're sort of like getting a taste of their own medicine, because when women or feminists problematize the things that men do, they make these same kinds of arguments like this normalizes, like rape and sexual assault of women. This is why Collective Shout was coming after the video games, and they have been doing it for a long time. This is why feminists problematize
Yeah.
men's interests across the board. If they can't get into them and change them, which they have also done, they'll just demonize them from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And like this puts men in a position of having to defend their hobbies or
It's
their interests.
unbelievable, though.
But when the same thing happens to them, which they have
Mm-hmm.
already normalized, like they've made it the way of critiquing cultural things, when it happens to like get on them for a moment, they lose their minds and they immediately start calling it victim blaming, which is ridiculous. You guys are not
Because
the
they're the
victim
victims.
of this. Like, that dude that you assaulted or allowed to get assaulted or did not provide sufficient protections for, that
Or and
guy's the victim,
continue.
and he doesn't even want to like claim that.
Yeah. It's freaking astounding. And this is all gender holes going on. This is what we're seeing. The absolute deflection of accountability onto being victims. This community is now a victim of this community facilitating and or engaging in a sexual assault of multiple men and sexual harassment of various parties, right? And again, if this was a male community, it would be 100% shut down. It wouldn't even be shut down by outsiders. The men on the committee would be like, this can't continue. This absolutely can't continue. Like we can't have an event like this that puts women at risk like this. They would do it. They would do it themselves. But that's not what the convention organizers are doing. That's not what it is at all. They want to continue after this disaster, after this tremendous failure of responsibility and accountability by them, the community, and everybody involved. They want to continue. And again, Brian was talking about how men have oversight. They're talking about, oh, women are subject to unique oversight over their issues. This is a rape fetish event. Dark fantasy, dark romantacy has tons and tons of rape and torture and questionable consent and controlling abuse and all of this other stuff in it. That's the event. And they're complaining about getting scrutiny for that. Okay?
Yeah.
Men, over how many years, have been constantly scrutinized because they like to see a pair of boobies in a tight shirt and been told, oh, that's part of rape culture. And they're saying, oh, we're getting this oversight because if there was actual sexual assaults and groping and sexual harassment, and we're getting all this. And this is what it took to get any kind of oversight to female-led and initiate and run events. This is what it took for anybody to start condemning anything that women do. Men just have to want to look at a pair of boobs or a butt in a tight jeans. And they get shit for contributing to rape culture and objectification. And women, apparently, the only thing gets them any kind of scrutiny is flat out sexual assault. Good Lord. And no self-awareness is apparent in any of this. And I don't even think any of the people who've talked about this have gone as far as we have in terms of analyzing this situation. I don't think Clownfish TV did, and some other people talked about it. This is irresponsibility. This is blanket, terrifying irresponsibility on the part of the organizers and everybody else involved. Okay.
Yep.
But we're going to explain why they're not to blame, and it's actually patriarchy. So
let's see. So, all right. And the crossing. Wait, but woo damn, did we say it about romance and romance readers? It happens to me too when I tell people that I write about romance fiction. Okay, I already read that part. Let's see. You normalize this is a feeble attempt to deflect or defend terrible behavior choices, to blame the victims and to silence them because they asked for it by writing romances or doing the performance they were paid to do.
How did we get here? Now the freaking community is the victim. You normalize this as a feeble attempt to defend or terrible behavior choices by outsiders towards members of the dark romantacy community. For writing or performance that they're paid to do. How did we get here? How are we now, the women who are part of dark romantacy are the victims of this man being serially sexually assaulted? Like, how did we get here? How is this justified? You nonsense people. Okay.
Yeah, it's nonsense people. All right. As author Marie McKay said, you're not supposed to act like the MMCs in a dark romance. That's why it's in the dark romance section. Also, one more side note. Dark romance isn't the problem. Dark romance and its contents are in part a reflection of current reality about how women feel right now, powerless, stalked, victimized, and subject to horrifying conduct. Wow. We did it, guys. We did it. We've managed to completely reverse the victimhood and put it on women. Furthermore, this behavior is already normalized, judging by the number of people who are sexually assaulted per reign. That's one person every 68 seconds, according to current data. If someone wishes to read about those experiences within a fictional world in a genre where the ending is promised to be happy, please, for the love of all that's holy, leave them alone. All right, go ahead, Alison. You can rant now. I just want to finish that.
What? Yeah, okay. So we start with the man.
So women read dark romance because they're afraid of rape in the real world. That's what she's saying. And they're not into it. They're afraid because of reality, because of rape culture.
Patriarchy makes you read dark romance. Maybe you should stop then.
Yeah. Maybe
you should smash the patriarchy and start, stop writing these books and buying them. Like, so you're fetishizing your own subjugation. Everything you've said here.
Well, The Handmaid's Tale is basically that, isn't it?
Everything you've said here.
It's kind of smutty.
Delegitimizes your genre. And I'm not even starting from a point where I think that dark romantasy has to disappear from the world. I sort of get it. Like, I won't read badly written dark romantasy, but I will read good written stuff. So I'm not going to be like, oh, you can't have that, ladies. But I will tell you that the way you're describing it here makes it sound like it is a social necessity to stop reading it because you are fetishizing your own oppression. What? Like, I can get like the dark intensity, the adrenaline and the fear and all that other stuff. I can get that it's just exciting or whatever. But to say we have to do this because the patriarchy makes us write these fetishistic contents that make us take pleasure in our own suppression. Wait, no, now you're telling me you need to stop. Like I was not against dark romantasy, but at the end of this, I'm like, no, maybe you should stop. If that's your justification, maybe you should stop doing it. And also, how are we here? How did we arrive at this point? I mean, it's like you walk into, I don't know, You might walk into a Mexican restaurant and then somehow you're in the Arctic. It's like, what? That was a sudden turnabout that had no connection. Like,
Makes me wonder if
just,
that isn't the goal of this blog post.
yeah, exactly. It does make you wonder. There's no reason for us to be here now. Absolutely no reason for us to be justifying the dark romantacy community because they're fetishizing their patriarchal oppression. Like, there's no reason for this to be here in the context of these events. What should be here is we have spoken with the con organizers, and until the women who are responsible for this come forward, they feel it's in the best interest of the community and the people and the men invited into it that this event cease. Right? That's what should be there. Not, oh, we're victims of the patriarchy in society. Like, us in the community, we're victims. Like, this thing happened, but we're the real victims. We're the real victims of this man being group serially assaulted. We're the real victims here. Good Lord. Like, are you one of the ones who did it? Like, Jesus.
All
All
right.
right.
So, if someone wishes to read about those experiences within a fictional world in a genre where the ending is promised to be happy, please,
We
for the
already
love
read
of all
that.
that is
Please don't.
holy, leave them alone. Sinners and Stardust released a statement on Instagram, and while I haven't seen it on their website, I hope it's shared there too. It outlines some changes for the 2026 gathering, including, so there's going to be some changes. Let's see
Some
how Sinners and
changes,
Stardust was
guys.
reacted to this. What are they going to do? Safety for our guests, authors, narrators, vendors, their assistants, our influencers, and special guests will now have a secure, dedicated area during the ball with their own security. They may move freely between areas, but attendees are not permitted in their area under any circumstances. If an attendee is caught trying to go into their secured space, they will be immediately removed and banned from future events. Smaller, safer events. We are decreasing the number of tickets available to ensure a more comfortable, safe, and respectful experience for everyone. These rules are not suggestions, they are expectations. Violations, including harassment, non consensual touching, photos taken without permission, invasive questions, or any behavior that makes others feel unsafe, will result in immediate removal and a permanent ban from all future Sinners and Stardust hosted events. I've been to events that have private breakfasts and meeting spaces for the speakers, and wow, it is lovely.
Oh, well, guys, this guy got assaulted, but you can all feel great that the women are going to really enjoy their event going forward. It's going to be lovely, guys. Lovely. All of these women who engaged in that behavior are probably going to have a free ticket to come back. It's going to be lovely for them. Oh, they're going to feel it's going to be so intimate and sweet. And they'll have to do more effort to actually continue to engage in their sexually assaultive ways, you know?
Yeah.
Well, at least they're doing something, I guess. I wouldn't want to be back here. Like, knowing that this happened with this group of people, and apparently there was enough women and no women intervened because it would have where's the actual conversation of the women who attempted to intervene, right? They probably would have said something. He would have said something. So we had a situation that in a public event, this man was subject to a serial group rape or a group grope. Apparently no women intervened. Neither did the
they put their hands down his pants and everything. So, like, this is what the claim
yes,
is.
it's a sexual assault.
I have no reason to not believe that. So, it's sort of neither here nor there because he's not pressing charges.
I know he's not pressing charges, but even so, the con organizers aren't taking responsibility for having done this, having put this situation in place. Why wasn't the security there prior to it happening? Right. And also, again, if this was a bunch of men and the convention wasn't shut down and completely lambasted outside, they would probably shut it down anyway out of absolute shame and guilt for having created an event where something like this could happen. And I'm pretty sure they would have said, you have to come forward and confess And until you do, no more events, which might mean there is no more events. But that's not what they're doing. They're going to continue to go on. Hopefully what they're putting in place will actually change this. We'll see. Maybe we won't hear this again. But again, if this was a male event, men have oversight on their events just because they like looking at scantily clad women. Okay? This is what it took to have any kind of oversight at a woman's event.
Yep.
Good Lord.
All right. So the blogger continues. Sinners and Stardust statement is a good first step, but I think there clearly needs to be a lot more communication and oversight. More specifically, attendees at events that feature sexually explicit events and potential performances will need explicit, specific instructions as to what boundaries are and how they will be enforced. The kink community already knows how to host events like these, and I'm reminded of past events and discussions when romance was heavy into BDSM portrayals, but light on the full nuanced education thereof. As the prologue 99 pointed out, unfortunately, what happened at Sinners and Stardust is the consequence of people entering kink spaces without being properly educated. These dark romances feature themes that seem non-consensual, but in the real world, scenes played out would require enthusiastic consent from all parties, as well as check-ins before and after a scene took place. This isn't a playground made for people to commit actual sexual crimes. This was a fantasy ball, not a dungeon/club. And if you acted like that...
What? What? Why are you soft pedaling this? This was an assault. They're like, oh, this isn't a place to play out a scene. That wasn't a scene. Okay, and also, these women don't need instructions. They need enforcement. Hopefully, the enforcement that you are putting forward is going to deal with it. Again, I would think you'd be so ashamed you just closed down the event. But apparently, you're all victims of society. And you get to continue. You feel no shame that this happened.
Yep.
Good Lord.
All right. If you acted like that in a dungeon/club, they would kick you out and ban you. My heart is with all the victims. I'm sorry for what happened you at the hands of others who you believed you were safe with. The prologue 99 is right. These are people engaging in explicit spaces without being properly educated on how to do so. Regardless, this shouldn't keep happening. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again. It's fucking abhorrent and it needs to stop. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, anime conventions had to explain clearly and explicitly that cosplay isn't consent. Someone dressed as a sexually provocative character isn't giving unspoken permission to be groped or assaulted. And that reminder still happens because assault still happens. So they did bring up the cosplay is not consent thing, but that was aimed at men that attended conventions, and it was only for women. They would claim that it wasn't gendered, but it was. And it was also kind of like unreasonable because it wasn't just like assaults, which doesn't really happen at conventions, really. But it included anything like talking to somebody without permission, taking a picture that they happen to be in, without asking their permission, things like that. And that was where this came up. I remember when we went to Calgary Expo, there were cosplay is not consent signs everywhere. So it was going on back then. Yeah. So now, here's the thing. What I think is happening is that what she's doing is she's going to. So this started off, and it was clearly a gendered assault. A bunch of women assaulted a man. And then she moved it, like she's moving the pieces around to sort of reorient the narrative away from that initial thing where we're simply acknowledging the reality that women can assault men, and that we have created an environment or a climate where that is not actually like seen as a problem to the same degree that we would if the sexes were reversed. So what this author of this blog has to do is find a way to either turn it into the opposite of that, where actually women are the victims of this, which they kind of did with that whole what we read through before, or turn it into a two wrongs make who cares. And I think that's what this is. Well, cosplay as a consent was also a thing, and that was like with men. you know, and it's like, but we already acknowledge that men can do this to women. That's not a problem, although you guys are broadening the definition of what that is, and that's a problem. But what the problem is that we're not allowed to acknowledge the reverse, which absolutely happens, and that actually there's a lot fewer, not just like legal restrictions, which you talked about, but also just cultural restrictions. Because remember, this is all like coming from female pornography, which is the smutty romance novel, and these are extreme versions of that. And you can find like these romance novels, you can get them at Walmart, you can get them at like any drugstore, you can get them at 7-Eleven, right? Like they're right. You can get them at the grocery store in the fucking impulse aisle, like right by where, you know, you just check out your stuff. That's not where boys porn is at. You don't find Penthouse there. So like they're literally looking at these two things in very different ways. And we could have a conversation about what are the potential, like, I don't know if there are any downstream effects from overconsumption, but we're not having it in a way that is like, let's say, gender neutral, right? We only talk about what happens with men, and that's the thing that we have a problem with because men are visual. But the stuff that women read,
Yeah.
women read is, you know, probably just like it can get even more extreme. Yeah, but because it's the written word and not photographic,
Well, it's because
or
it's women.
drawings
Let's
or
be
whatever.
honest.
What?
It's because it's women. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about, now our community has oversight because there was some horrific actual things that happened at one of our conventions that we didn't actually protect against. We probably don't really even acknowledge the possibility. How would we and now we have oversight. Now people are looking at us. They're saying, what is going on? Men never get any kind of oversight. I'm like, men get oversight for literally freaking everything. They get oversight for finding women attractive. They get oversight for the types of women they find attractive. They get oversight for their sex toys. They get oversight. There is a article here that I'm looking at on quote robot rape, because men might take advantage of something that has no sentience.
Yeah,
like
they might take advantage of a sex robot.
Sexuality is under a microscope constantly. You're only getting a little taste of it because you have created the circumstances for something horrific to happen. Like, you have done that. Like, it's like this the woman is like, I mean, she's like mounted a guy. I guess it's going to be really graphic. And she's been caught by the party. You know, she's in the cloakroom having her way with some passed out dude. And people are like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "You don't give men this kind of scrutiny. Men get away with it." You know, it's like, no, they don't. And it's all like the constant arguments. They always bring up some new guy who has engaged in something horrific like Pelicot. And it's like, well, but the justice system is going to get him, right? Yeah, it doesn't always work because there's a duty to protect the innocent. But the reason why Giselle Pelicot, I think it's Giselle Pelicot or something like that. Ghislaine, no, not Ghislaine. That's Giselle Pelicot. The reason why she's going to see justice done is because a bunch of male French policemen actually were more aware of what was going on towards her than she was. If it was just left up to feminists and her, this would still be happening to her, right? And if this happened in a matriarchy, I see how little women want to hold themselves accountable. She'd probably be blamed for it if she was being raped by women. Like, there is justice because men created the justice system and enforce it, right? There is 100% oversight over men's behavior, even behavior that has nothing to do with rape. And it's because women are exploiting men's instinct to police each other, right? So they'll say, well, you police each other when it comes to rape, but what about all of these slippery slope behaviors that lead to rape, like rape jokes and boobies and games with hot chicks in them? Like, we need to have oversight over all of that. What about the causal connection between boys being raped by adult women and them going on to no, we don't. No, that we don't have to. We're just going to jump over that. We're going to ignore that. No, we don't have to deal with that. We're going to go with rape jokes cause rape. That's it. That's the ticket.
Yep.
Or scantily clad women in games cause rape. Not boys being raped by women and a minority of those going on. No. No, we're not going to look at that. We're not going to look at that. No. We're going to jump right over that. Hit right on things that men enjoy cause rape. So this is absolutely absurd that she says, "Oh, men wouldn't be scrutinized in this circumstance." Are you freaking kidding me? This is the final analysis with this. She's saying that men wouldn't be scrutinized in this circumstance, right? Because the real victim here is fans of dark romantacy. The real victim of a man being serially groped at this dark romantacy fantasy is the fans of dark romantacy. And she's saying we're being scrutinized in a way that men wouldn't. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yep.
They're literally saying when their community engages in sexual assault and harassment, that is equivalent to men being scrutinized for liking bikinis. That is worse. Like that is them being targeted. Do you see how that is freaking rape apologia? Them being scrutinized for having engaged in sexual assaulting behaviors, or at least facilitated it, or somehow not prevented it from happening, that is equivalent to the scrutiny that men get for liking bikinis. And they're being uniquely targeted. So there is no circumstance under which, in their minds, it's legitimate to call out these communities of women. Because if you can't call them out when they do this, when can you call them out? They've just written a blank check for them to be engaged in any behavior they want. And it's good that the con organizers are so shameless that they want to continue their event. But at least they're putting in some protections. We'll see if they actually work. Okay.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead a bit because I gotta go pick Lindsay up soonish. Yeah. So I don't know we got more to look at, but there is one thing I wanted to read. So I'm jumping ahead to this bit where she because she like gives a bunch of other anecdotes that are just kind of like, I guess when you're a writer, you just have to fill the fucking page with random bullshit. But here's a bit that's a little bit more interesting. So she says, the first thing I thought of when reading reports from Sinners and Stardust, the cover models, the first thing I thought of, the cover models at RT, the Romantic Times Book Lovers Convention. So there's another book convention called the Romantic Times Book Lovers Convention. Used to have the Mr. Romance pageant, which many of us call the Mangent. The cover models and the Mr. Romance pageant contestants endured a lot of the same treatment, and it was not as vocally condemned as it has been today. So Mr. Romance, I just learned this now as we were doing this, apparently they have a pageant where they have a bunch of dudes, and they would vote on the, I guess, like whoever Mr. Pageant is. These were like models for covers of romance novels, okay? So now we're not even doing the dark fantasy stuff. This is just like romance novels that, women read that you can get, like I said, at your local drugstore or grocery store. And I will share this with the vertical so you guys can see it. So I'm going to have to switch this to here. And, here's like a construction worker or a mechanic guy. And you have and they're like ripping their shirts off and stuff. And the women vote on that, I guess. So just showing you guys, that these are the pictures, I guess. So, and yeah. So anyway, I thought I would share that. So we know what we're getting into here, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into it.
So she goes, the Romantic Times Book Lovers Convention used to have, oh no, I already read that part. Mr. Romance pageant contestants used to have to basically schmooze the attendees for their votes. Early descriptions of the event in the magazine call them romance heroes come to life, and they'd be expected to behave courteously and with great solicitation to the attendees. You can imagine how well that went. There are some very fortunate people who didn't have their assaulting behavior filmed and shared on social media because, wow, did it happen. So this stuff was happening at these conventions. The women's would get handsy with these guys. Now, of course, this shouldn't be surprising to anyone. If you've ever heard stories about bachelorette parties with male
Mhm.
strippers or male strip clubs, it's nothing like female strip clubs. Female strip clubs, there's like fucking armed guards. They have some states have very specific rules about like whether or not you can serve alcohol in bars where the women get fully nude, and if they don't get fully nude, then maybe you can serve alcohol. It's a whole system that they have going on, and that just does not appear to be the case with female like strip bars or whatever. So anyway, let me see. This environment was further complicated by publishers like Elora's Cave bringing their own Elora's Cavemen to RT, and the directives for their own attendee interactions were very different. And because Elora's Cave published explicit material and was one of the earlier small presses to specialize in it, the presence of the cavemen and their performances led to a mixed, often unfortunate result in attendee behavior. Again,
What?
where does that come from? Again, we have
Okay,
been here
wait a
before.
second. So in both of these paragraphs, you're blaming the men. Now, and you're even soft pedaling. There were some very unfortunate people who didn't have their assaulting behavior filmed. So does she mean the models or the women? Because it's sort of ambiguous there. I assume she means the women.
Their assaulting behavior. I assume she means the women. Yeah, fortunate people who did not have their. So I guess they're fortunate for not having it filmed. Like
Yeah.
they're lucky. The women are lucky.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's keep going.
All right. Again, we have been here before. It would be fucking fantastic if we could make different choices. Why do we discuss boundaries over and over again? Because this is a problem with cis women,
What was
specifically
the
cis
event?
women.
What
What?
was the event? What was the event that she's talking about right now?
The romantic book lovers, romantic times book lovers conventions, Mr. Romance pageant, or I guess there was publishers like Elora's Cave bringing their cavemen, which were, I guess, those Elora's Cave books were like
Oh,
extra
okay. So
explicit.
here's sexual assault of male employees at romance book, dark romance. Okay, that's not it. The dark romance ball. Stinners and Stardust. I'll put in Alora's Cave because it's not giving me.
Yeah, Elora's Cave. Okay. Again, she's also saying that there isn't a lot of documentation on that.
Hmm.
So when she says cis women, yeah, she just means women. Trans women get blamed for different stuff. So it's like, but anyway, um, so this is the important thing that she's going to claim here. And I think this is important to point out, okay? Why do we have to discuss boundaries over and over again? Because this is a problem with cis women, specifically cis women who, as Kaylee said, think that adopting toxic masculine behaviors and inflicting them on others is somehow empowering it. It's not.
What?
So
These are not toxic masculine
cis women,
behaviors.
cis
God
women
damn you,
assaulting men
femmes!
is
Just take
women engaging in
responsibility.
toxically masculine behavior. Did you know that, guys? Did you know that? They're just pretending to be men.
Okay, so they must have been talking about women in this instance.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Could you femmes just take responsibility for something? Like seriously, are you completely
Women
allergic
assaults
to it?
men, that's toxic masculinity. Did you know that,
Women
guys?
most affected. And that toxic masculinity is moving it towards women being victims again of a woman assaulting a man. She's the real victim of having assaulted him because she's got internalized toxic masculinity.
Yep. Sexual assault is simply masculine behavior. That's right. Okay. So let me see if there's toxically masculine behaviors and inflicting them on others is somehow empowerment. It's not. Several people have expressed similar sentiments, including Georgina Kirstein. I just got caught up in the Sinners and Stardust convention, and I am horrified, but not surprised. I am a stealth trans man, and I have been firsthand in what's a stealth trans man? Does that mean you just didn't transition as a woman? Is that what it
Or
means?
no, he I assume he identifies as he probably is able to pass is what he means.
Stealth? Okay, sure. A stealth trans man, and I have been firsthand in both Romance Landia and the fandom how cis women objectify men and think it's okay. There's a big portion of women in the world who think liberation is having the privilege to get away with committing the same wrongs as men do
What
without
the
impunity. This is what it all boils down to.
what this freaking construct? Like literally, men don't get away with this. If this had happened at a convention for any type of male initiated thing, that convention would likely be shut down. Like multiple sexual assaults in public, guys, with apparently not the con attendees not preventing it. Like there was an allegation, I think, of one kind of thing at one event once, maybe, and it had a whole bunch of changes. I don't even think it was proved. So they're doing the changes, but the problem is that this is pervasive. I've never heard of this happening at a convention. I've never heard of a group of men cornering a cosplayer and groping her and nobody stepping in. And the con organizers apparently just AWOL. And then also men engaging in kissing authors, like guests, and harassment of guests, like across the convention. Like I've never heard of that. And I'm pretty sure just conjecturizing about how when men do this kind of things, how they're treated, that convention would be shut down. And if it wasn't shut down by outside parties, it would be shut down by its organizers out of shame or fear that any further events couldn't properly protect its female guests and talent. Okay, continue, Brian.
What?
Yeah, I just can't believe this. Like they're taking something and they're just blaming men because they don't want to take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Like you just don't want to take responsibility for it. Right? Even if this is a patriarchy, quote unquote, patriarchy has enabled women's sexual assault by teaching men an identity in which they become passive sexual resources for women. Because they say, well, I should be grateful. Well, what did that guy say? I'm not your enemy. You raped me or you groped me, but I'm not your enemy. You know, I don't want to be an imposition.
I don't want to burn any bridges. So,
I don't want to burden you guys. I don't want to burden you female sexual assaulters. You know, that's if patriarchy is anything, it's that. It's teaching men to just accept women's sexual entitlement. Where does the toxic masculinity? I don't know.
Yep.
They think that they conflate pursuit, men being expected to pursue, with rape, and there's two different things. Men are expected to initiate sexually. That doesn't mean that they are more likely to rape, because rape is something distinct. It is a desire. When men initiate sexually, they're trying to get your consent, right? When people rape, they don't care about your consent or don't want it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So, Charlotte Stein pointed out the larger issue isn't just about fiction and reality or parasocial relationships or the material inside a book. And this is what Charlotte Stein said, I guess. I've said this many times before and people refuse to accept it or they just strawman it. It's not the books or the enjoyment of the books. It's the trends. It's suppression of critical thinking about them, the vilification of anyone who does, and the culture that fosters. It's making the books your whole identity. It's refusing to understand or accept how fiction and reality interact. The reason this has happened in the past is not because the present is innocent and fine. It's because the behavior never really gets addressed. The culture around it never gets addressed. It gets shut down with one bad apple or, well, it's just the way things are.
Okay, so she's basically saying what I'm saying. The culture around it isn't getting addressed. The culture of women not taking responsibility for their violent sexual entitlement and the violent sexual entitlement of other women, ensuring that they aren't able to express it in a situation where they're making these men vulnerable, isn't being addressed. And it's not being addressed because you keep deflecting it onto toxic masculinity or patriarchy or we're the real victims, which we've just witnessed, which is hilarious because they're quoting this woman calling them out for what they're doing in the article that quotes it. Like, oh, This just goes on forever. I don't know if we want to continue it, but
No, it's almost at the end here. So,
okay.
I don't know if you wanted to, because you sent me that study. I don't know if you wanted me to bring that up.
Breeding choices are not a cause nor a defense for assault, and yet you've just made them a cause for being the victims in the context of a man being sexually assaulted.
Yep.
That's the real problem. It isn't that you like dark fantasy. It's that somehow you have warped it in your mind that because people might question you about it or think that you're complicit, that somehow means you are the victim of this man being sexually assaulted. And that suddenly you're getting scrutiny. And this woman, you quote this woman saying that the problem is that the culture isn't addressed. And then you say, oh, this is just scrutiny that men would never get. You are a nonsense person.
Yep.
What you have written is incoherent nonsense. It is somebody who feel a guilty soul groping for the feeling of salvation. And there is nowhere in it. The only place you're going to find salvation is responsibility. Slap the toxic masculinity out of your mouth, slap the patriarchal norms out of your mouth, and just say, we women have a horrendous sexual entitlement that needs to be carefully corralled and contained, or shit like this happens, and it's continuing to happen in this community because the responsibility is not being taken by the event goers or the event organizers. And that woman has hit it. She hit it right on the nail. The problem is the community and the lack of oversight. And again, if you are masculine presenting, if you're a trans man, a butch lesbian, if you are a tomboy, if you are on the masculine spectrum, and God forbid you are a man, do not go to these events. Stay far away.
Yep.
Because this culture has encouraged sexual entitlement among these attendees with no oversight and all kinds of excuses how they're the real victim. And it's either showing men how they feel or it's toxic masculinity. Therefore, I'm really the victim of having assaulted the guy because I'm the one with the internalized toxic masculinity. I'm the one who's been ground upon by patriarchy. So I'm the real victim here. This all is contributing to continuing this culture of sexual entitlement in the romance genre. I don't know what else we can say, right? We need to, I could show you the statistics. I've showed it to you multiple times. The millennial shift is showing that Zoomer and millennial women are 3 to 4 times more likely to engage in violent sexual assault. That is sexual assault with weapons, guys, than any previous generation of women and any previous generation of men and men currently. So this group of women, they're just getting worse. And the romance community, like this woman says, the romance community's sexual entitlement is just a reflection of this overall sexual entitlement of women that's getting worse and worse and worse and worse because feminists are feeding this framework that excuses it, that reframes everything, puts men to blame for women's actions. You just watched a feminist do that. We just went through it, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. 3 to 4 times more likely to use weapons than men of their own age or any previous generation of people. Therefore, they are the most violent, sexually violent group since we've been paying attention. Go figure. Go figure that 2 generations of being told that they're not responsible for rape, it's actually toxic masculinity in their brains, like a parasite, has caused women to become the rapiest group of people on the planet. And not just that, their attitudes towards male victims of rape have deteriorated. They've regressed. Boomer women and Gen X women are less likely to blame male victims of female rapists and less likely to assume that they enjoyed it than millennial women and Zoomer women. Their attitudes are regressing. They're going backwards. The rest of the world's going forwards, and this generation of women is just becoming a troglodyte, a bunch of troglodytes. And it's just, And then the other thing, again, hatred or resentment of men in women is actually a causal factor, or it's causally related to their sexual assaults of men. So the more you create women who hate or resent men, the more likely men are going to be sexually assaulted. Dark romantacy says, oh, we're a reflection of the reality of how men prey on women. You are encouraging resentment and hatred of men, which is a causal factor in women apparently raping them. Like, that means there is an association between the two. There isn't the case with men for whatever reason, but there is with women. Go figure. And none of this is what they're talking about. They're just living in their solipsistic bullshit about how women don't, well, maybe women rape, but they just don't have to take responsibility like men, because it's not part of a systemic problem. Even though, men use rape systemically, even though they're the ones who are predominantly preventing and punishing male rapists, right? No, but they use it systemically to inflict patriarchy on everyone. This is just going to get worse. And it's gross. It's beyond gross. It's like,
Yeah.
It's existentially horrifying. And again, like, this guy's, he's just enacting what we could consider to be patriarchal programming for men to regard themselves as passive sexual resources for women. So their consent doesn't matter. If a woman wants to grab some, that's her right as a woman, whatever she wants, she gets, and you just passively take it. And I don't mean to shame him, because there's one thing that I can say that is, it's probably good in his reaction, is if he can't identify the people who assaulted him, he probably shouldn't start, blanket blaming people, because that's how mislabeled accusations happen. So I can understand not wanting to do that. But the rest of it, it's like, you need some serious help, right? Because you are taking responsibility for something that is not your fault. You are centering the feelings of your assaulters. And that's what, this is something that men do. And this is a really inappropriate place. Like, if anybody has internalized misandry, it's this dude. Oh man, you shouldn't have to care about the emotions of the women who gang groped you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even think you have to care about them. But this is something I see that's really common in male victims of sexual assault by women, as they don't feel like they have a right to victimhood. And part of the reason why is because of the feminist framework around all of these issues. All right. So, like I said, I could show you guys the statistics, but I'm sure you wouldn't find that very entertaining.
I can show them the Sage Journal's abstract, but I'm not able to open the thing up, so you can just look at it so you know that it exists.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So over the last 40 years, women's attitudes towards male victims of female rapists has deteriorated. It's gone backwards, guys. All right. And maybe part of the driving force of that has been these romantacy conventions. Apparently, it's been a problem for years and years and years and years at romance conventions. The sexual entitlement of women. And nobody sees fit to actually control it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a little bit of a change. But again, where's the shame in these organizers? Where's the shame in the fic bitches? You're part of a community, and she even posts it. The woman who's calling it out, saying this is a community problem. And yet, what did we read for the last 2 hours? This woman deflecting onto patriarchy and toxic masculinity, and people who judge dark romantacy readers and everybody else but themselves, and the necessity for them to take accountability. All right. Okay. I'm going to do a double check on the fundraiser, see if anybody's put something through. Really appreciate it if you do. If you want to, it's at feedthebadger.com/event or perhaps events. I'm gonna look there now. Please put something in, guys, because this is, these events aren't cheap, and I think they're really important to be part of a community that understands the necessity of women taking responsibility. All right, so feedthebadger.com/event if you want to support that. Good Lord, please fund it, because there has to be a space where this stuff is pushed back on, and people have to it's really nice to go somewhere where you can talk to people who understand these issues on the level they need to be understood at, right? And aren't constantly centering women's emotions at the expense of men's well-being. Like, I can't emphasize this enough. It is so heartening to be able to meet with people in public, sort of let your hair down and know that they understand. So please support the event, feedthebadger.com/event. And, or perhaps it's event or events. And
Hold on. It's events.
Okay. And if you want to send us a message anytime after the show is over, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I actually feel really exhausted now.
It is tiring.
This is freaking tiring. This is like just, and then you can just see how irresponsible that is. Nothing was learned. This community is going to continue to facilitate women's violent sexual entitlement. Society is going to continue to facilitate it and make excuses for it. And then blame the minority of men who are boys who are sexually abused and never get any kind of assistance to overcome it. The minority of men who then go on to be predators, sexually abused specifically by women.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a clusterfuck of fuck. It's a spaghetti ball of fuck. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just really exhausted. This is definitely something really bothers me.
Yeah. All right.
It's exhausting work. Okay. But it's necessary work. Because, I mean, could you imagine if we weren't calling this out? Has anybody gone through this and correctly identified the failures of taking responsibility of these people? Or how much they are playing the victim? I mean, it's one thing to, like, the women who assaulted, fine, there are assaulters in the woman world, right? But none of the people who facilitated this, didn't prevent it from happening, encouraged a culture of foisting blame for women's sexual behavior onto men, none of them are taking responsibility. And then they're even publishing a quote from someone who's saying it is the culture that's the problem. But they're still not taking responsibility. Everybody else is to blame, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of not dying from an aneurysm, I'm just going to hand it back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And for the rest of you guys that are watching, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.